Hey guys, welcome back to the Smoke Shack. This is Steven and Connor. We have Connor in the Smoke Shack today. Unlike usual where he's at his house, we actually have him in the shack today. Connor, it's great to see you back in the shack.
Great to be back in the shack.
Today, guys, it has been a while. Today, guys, we are bringing you something special, just like Connor being back in the shack. We are bringing you the Arturo Fuente Opus X Perfecxion number 4. It's a 5 1/8 by 43 Parejo, and it's a Dominican puro, so Dominican wrapper, binder, and fillers for this cigar. As far as the craftsmanship score goes, I'm gonna let Connor lead it off because he has not been here in a while, so I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one.
So jumping right in here to the craftsmanship score.
Before we get into craftsmanship, sorry, Connor. Typically, we've been doing the background on these companies. I think I've made the joke to Connor before this went live that, I just don't think Arturo Fuente really needs much of a background. No. And if you guys don't know who Arturo Fuente is, you soon will know. Very, very, one of the biggest names in cigars. So I'm just not even going to go through a background for you. Connor, take it away.
Alrighty, so getting right into the presentation. Love the wood box. It has the cedar plank and the footband. Honestly though, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. There's just a little too much going on here. And when you get the cedar bands, you can't always see what the construction looks like before you pick it up out of the humidor. So just a 9 out of 10 there. A small deduction, not a huge deal. It's just a personal preference thing. Construction I have at a 9 out of 10. Underneath the cedar, there is kind of like a wrinkly spot and a little bit like of a bleach looking spot there, and the cap is just a little sloppy, so 9 out of 10 there. The color is fantastic for a natural sun-grown cigar here though. Normally I don't like that in a cigar, and I would tend to rate a natural wrapper a little bit lower, but a perfect 10 out of 10 here. However, the Vitola on the 5 1/8 by 43, it's just a little awkward looking. It's a little too skinny, so I'm taking that to a 7 out of 10 on the Vitola.
Gotcha, yeah. As far as my craftsmanship score goes here, presentation, I actually am a huge fan of this. Really love the bands, the way they look, love the boxes. Do love the addition of the ribbon on the bottom of the cigar. Now, what I do like about the cedar plank here on the cigar, well, not only do I like just the cedar plank characteristics, that it's going to help age the cigar. It's going to help give us those more cedar notes, more creamy notes in the cigar, especially over time that we can just leave this thing in a humidor. It's going to take those cedar notes right out of it.
And
it's already packed in there. Protects it, all those good things. What I'm going to show you today is something really cool that Arturo Fuente kind of does. So he always puts these little ribbons on the bottom of the cigar there. Now that also holds this cedar in, but now I only have a piece of tape here on the top and no tape on the bottom, so I am actually going to light my cigar just by lighting the cedar and letting that cedar burn it back. Now it's a little cool party trick with the Opus X's. I don't know if I've done it maybe once before, so this will be the first time on camera, but anyway, I think that's something really cool that they do. It's definitely something different. We'll be definitely getting into that right now, or right here shortly. Construction-wise, I'm with you, Connor. That's why I don't like the cedar plank on there. You can't see the whole cigar.
Exactly.
You can't see the construction. You can't see if you have any nicks or anything. Now, typically you don't have any nicks because that cedar plank's there to protect everything, but you are right. Sometimes that glue can even get stuck to the wrapper or anything, yep, and pull a little bit off. But I did peek at mine and was able to see throughout the construction of the cigar. I got this thing as a 10 out of 10. Very good amount of firmness to the spring. Very, very even roll. Does have, the veins that you can feel a little bit, but they're not really sticking out or protruding, if you will. And that cap on top looks beautiful. I mean, it really does stick out. It looks very, nice. Very nice.
Very oily.
As far as the color goes here, though, I do have this as a 9 out of 10 just because there's a little bit of spottiness here on the wrapper. Looks like just little bits of spottiness. But the toe is extremely vibrant. Extremely. Especially for how tiny it is. Looks great, though. So a 9 out of 10 here for that. Vitola, I don't like the smaller cigars. I definitely do not like skinnier cigars.
Exactly.
Now, I don't like something bigger than a 60 ring gauge, but I'm not a huge under 50. So I'm down to a 6 out of 10 here for Vitola. It's probably my lowest Vitola score yet. But a 1.93 here for my craftsmanship score. So it really did not affect it at all. It's a very high score here for that cigar.
Very.
Did you cut yours? All right. Go ahead and give us a pre-light there.
Off of the cigar itself, off of the body, it's more of a hay barnyard, sweet hay. And off the dry draw, the draw seems like it's going to be excellent, but I'm getting a lot of raisiny, like a sweet.
Very much a raisin.
Sweet raisin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and fire mine up.
Got a little bit of cedar in there as well. Very rich on that raisin. In fact, even a little bit molassesy.
Okay.
How sweet it is.
Now that you mention it, molasses is a very good description of that dry draw. That is very tasty right off the bat. A lot of cedar. Almost like a graham cracker cereal.
Yeah, that did not go the way that I thought it would. So we are going to take this off, but just let it burn out itself.
There's a nice spice in there too. That's the one thing about the smaller ring gauge is that when you light them, it kind of burns around it. So I think this is going to be a bit of an uneven burn there on the first third. But hopefully I don't have to touch that up too much, if at all.
You can tell there's a lot of subtle pepper in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Good amount of creaminess with that cedar. I think it's that cedar cream
It's so
that we're
well
getting
balanced.
from that aged kind of taste. Yeah, extremely well balanced. Definitely going to pick up more notes here as we smoke this thing down. We are going to go ahead and smoke this thing down towards the end of the first third, and then we're going to catch you back up with our thoughts, which shouldn't be here too shortly because I don't think these 43 green gauges are that big of a smoke. So we'll see you back here shortly.
Hey, bringing you back in here for the first third. As you can see, the ash is still hanging on, slightly flaky, and it's going to fall off just about any second here. So I'm going to run through the scores. First, I have this on the strength scale at a, don't fall, about a 3 out of 10 right now. It's not really that strong. Very nice, enjoyable, mild to medium cigar. As far as flavor tasting notes, I'm getting a citrusy, almost like an orange. There was a nutty, a creaminess, and some spices like a black pepper in there. Very enjoyable, extremely well balanced. It's kind of hard to pick out any one note because it's so well balanced.
Yeah.
Taking that intensity score to an 8 just because there's not one flavor that's really standing out to me. Enjoyability here though is an absolute 10 out of 10. It is very tasty. I like that citrus note. It kind of has a citrusy finish that I'm really enjoying. 10 out of 10 on the complexity. There's a lot going on. It's very well balanced. Finish at an 8 out of 10. It's really only coating my tongue. Like it's not really around my mouth. The draw here is, I mean, the burn performance is almost extremely fantastic. Draw, consistency, combustion, all perfect. The ash structure and color though I do have at a 9 out of 10. As I showed you, it is about to fall off and it's slightly flaky and it's just a little bit grayer in spots than I'd like to see, but not, it's very consistent, so that's why it's at a 9. Smoking assessment is actually better than the burn performance. The resting smoke is a 9 out of 10. It's just slightly off. Drawing smoke, mouthfeel, temperature, and aroma are all perfect 10 out of 10s. I mean, it's drawing perfectly. The temperature is ideal. And the aroma in the room, it's very citrusy, nutty, kind of like creaminess going on.
Yeah, I like the aroma in the room.
It's really filling the room.
Yeah, definitely. As far as my first third goes here, flavor profile, kind of similar to Connor's. It's got cedar, a lot of cedar. Not very creamy cedar, just more of the cedar. I thought it would be a little bit more creamy here in the first third. Black pepper, some citrus that's coming off in the form of a lemon, and then some very earthy tones, a lot more of like a soily grit,
like a peat moss maybe.
I don't know what peat moss even smells like, so I'm not sure. But soily, yes. Intensity I have is a 5 out of 10 here for the first third. You know, the strength-wise, I think it actually is more on a 4 here for me.
Okay.
But intensity, like richness of flavor, I only have it as a 5 out of 10. And it might just be because it's so balanced that it just comes off as it's not as strong. But I am picking up the flavors. You know, they're there. You can taste them, but they're not super obvious, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing with that. Enjoyability, though, I still have it at 10 out of 10. Extremely well balanced and still getting very rich flavor out of this, just not really pronounced flavor. Complexity I have is a 9 out of 10. It is perfectly balanced, but I only have 4 flavors in the flavor profile here, so I can't go any higher than a 9 out of 10. Almost perfect. If we add one more flavor note in here, we're hitting that 10 out of 10. The finish I do have is an 8 out of 10 as well as Connor. It just doesn't really have that length. Also doesn't have a whole lot of just richness of flavor in the finish either. It's kind of a mixture of the two. It's got decent length and decent richness of flavor there in the finish. Draw still has a 10 out of 10. Consistency, or that char line, looks really, really good right now. It's a 9 out of 10 though. It was just off from perfect throughout the whole first third.
And I did want to mention on my combustion, not to cut you off there, Steve, but you can pretty much touch the burn line on this cigar.
Yeah, mine's actually, I'm a little bit down further, and that's why my combustion's a 9 out of 10. Mine's burn a little hotter than that. Ash structure, I actually also have that as an 8 out of 10, which is a little lower than Connor's. It was just slightly flakier, and it did fall off before we cut back in, so I can't really show you that. Also, the ash color, 7 out of 10, had a little bit more of a grayness to it in spots, and a nice whiteness to it in others.
Yeah.
Not those big black, marks that we see.
Like a burn
It was
mark.
subtle differences in the color, but there were differences in the color, so that's why the 7 there. Smoke assessment here, I got 9, 10s, and 7s across the board. Check that out at the end of the video. I think the one thing to highlight there is the aroma, which Connor already highlighted. I would like to just say exactly what he said, that there's a citrusy and cedar that's in the aroma, and it's really nice, really rich here in the room, a 10 out of 10 there. Other than that, go ahead and check it out at the end there.
Just real quick though, why do you have the mouthfeel and temperature at a 7? Because I do have them perfect. So
my mouthfeel, so
coarse.
I'm not getting it on the
okay.
sides of my mouth real good. It's a little bit more pronounced on my tongue than on the roof of my mouth,
Gotcha.
so that's why it's a 7. Temperature, it's actually rather hot up here for the first third to be, for me, you're grabbing all the way up, I'm not. I'm grabbing a little bit further down. So my cherry is low, but the temperature is also bad, and it shouldn't be this low in the first third. So that's why it's scoring that low. 8.94 for my opening third, and then you can check out the other two, drawing smoke and resting smoke, at the end on my scorecard. We're going to go ahead and smoke these down into the final third and then catch you back up with our thoughts. Hey guys, bringing you back in here at the middle third of the cigar. Flavor profile changes up a whole lot here. A good amount of evolution here in the cigar. I've got cayenne pepper, cinnamon, chocolate, cedar, and some nutty notes. It is really phenomenal. Very, very well rounded here. Very big flavor profile, and it is quite rich in flavor. I do have that intensity of richness of flavor at a 7 out of 10. Cigar is really, really picking up nicely here. I think the strength only picks up a little bit here. I think it's more of like a 5.5. Would have to, if it's the final rating, have to rate it a 6, but it's like 5, 6 here. Enjoyability, 10 out of 10. This thing is really enjoyable. I'm really loving that cayenne pepper note, that spicier note in the mouth. The cinnamon, it is just on the verge of being dry in the mouth, like a real, like if you took cinnamon and was to put it in your mouth right now. It's really phenomenal here. Complexity, 10 out of 10, very well balanced. And we have all 5 of those flavor notes here in this second third. So 10 out of 10. Finish does also peaks up to a 9 out of 10. I think the length just still is not, it's lacking a little bit there. It's not finishing all the way to my next note or my next puff. Draw here, still this kind of really the same here with the burn performance. 10 out of 10 here in the draw. Consistency, our char line, 9 out of 10 still. Combustion, a little bit better here, a 9 out of 10 here for that. Ash structure, ash color, really a lot of the same, 8, 8. Smoke assessment, 9s and 10s across the board here. So no more 7s, it's all 9s and 10s. You can check that out at the end. 9.38 for this middle third. Connor, your thoughts?
Nice. Yeah, so my strength, I have it about a 4 out of 10 here. As far as the flavor, though, it kind of got a little bit boring. It's a creaminess, a nuttiness, maybe that citrus still in there with a little bit of cedar or vanilla. It's one or the other, and I can't really place it. So I do have that complexity down to an 8 from a 10, and the intensity is a 6. It's just not really anything's popping out at me that's like, wow, this is something that I can absolutely place it on. Other than that, the complexity dropped down just to an 8. I'm only getting like 3 main flavors. Still very enjoyable though. The draw here is still fantastic. The consistency, very consistent. The only thing in the burn performance that really took a hit was the ash structure and color. As you can see there, it is very flaky, and there's some black spots mixed on the bottom there. Resting smoke also took a bit of a hit. It's only 1% of the score, but I dropped it to a 5 just because it was kind of all over the place, and in between it's not really smoking. And the aroma, I dropped that down to an 8. I feel like it's not overpowering the room like it was. So does come down a bit here in the second third for me as an 8.68.
All right, we're going to go ahead and smoke these down into the final third and then get together our final thoughts and final scores and then catch you up with all those thoughts. See you here shortly.
All right, so bringing you back in here with our thoughts on the final third and the overall score here for the Fuente Opus X. The intensity and strength, the strength picked up to a 6 out of 10 here for me. It was a pretty mild cigar overall on the medium to full scale here. The flavors that I was getting, it was a creaminess, kind of like a creamy butter, a nutty flavor in there, sort of a spice, and there was something else, but I wasn't quite picking it up. So the intensity, 7 out of 10, a bump up from the last score. However, the complexity and finish down to a 7, respectively. The complexity, it was really a creaminess and a nuttiness that was the main flavor profile. It was so well balanced that it was hard to get anything else out of it. The finish, it really just didn't hang on, didn't really coat the whole palate. Ash structure was the only thing that really took a hit here in the burn performance. Didn't really hang on, extremely flaky, slightly gray, 5 and 6 there. And then the resting smoke stayed the same at a 5. The temperature, it got slightly warm, a 9 out of 10. Again, it's the end of the cigar, you would expect that. And the aroma in the room, I feel like it totally disappeared here. 5 out of 10 there on the aroma in the room. Running through my thirds, a 9.49 on the first third, the most enjoyable. 8.68 in the second third, and an 8.55 in the final third, with a craftsmanship score of a 1.81, bringing the overall score to an extremely respectable 8.91.
Wow, that was nice. Yeah. I thought it would score a little bit lower just with some of the numbers that you were giving us throughout. So it's good to hear that it was still very enjoyable score, because that kind of goes with your enjoyability score, that it was quite enjoyable. For me, my flavor profile here in the final third is still very, very well-rounded, very complex. I'm getting a lot of subtle flavors throughout this cigar. It's very, very nice. I think it's one of those cigars, I think right now, where I'm picking up a lot more subtle the flavors, and you're picking up more of the main tones, but it's still enjoyable for both beginner and more of a advanced palate. And I really like that about this cigar. I guess that's more of us talking about at the end. Let me get into my stuff here, and then we'll get going. Cream, nuttiness, red pepper, coffee, and cedar here to finish the cigar. I really, really like this. I would like to have maybe a little bit more of a sweet note in here, kind of how we had in the first 2/3. But really just extremely well balanced.
So well balanced.
I think throughout the whole cigar is extremely well balanced. But it is a little bit more rich here in the final third. Might just because of that temperature and everything. 8 out of 10 though is what I got here for that intensity or richness of flavor. Enjoyability, 10 out of 10 still. Complexity, still a 10 out of 10. It is very, very, very well balanced and very well rounded as well. Finish, I now have that up to a 10 out of 10 as well. It's just making it. It's any little less, it's 9. You know what I mean? It's just making it the length. It's still very rich, but it's, I mean, a little bit longer, and that thing's dissipating in my mouth. Draw, 10 out of 10. Actually, burn performance is very consistent with throughout, except for the ash structure, just like Connor's. Mine has just gotten slightly flaky, as you can see, and really it doesn't affect that solid form. So I'm still going with a 7 out of 10 here, but as you can see, it's flaking off, so you gotta take off for that. Smoke assessment, a lot more 10s here than before, but a couple 9s in there as well. You can check out that score here at the end. I think my aroma still is very, very pronounced. I have it as a 10. I don't feel that I have to waft it at myself, but it's nice to do it because the aroma is so nice. I'm still picking up a lot of those cedar characteristics, not as much as the citrus, or I think of that orangey citrus that we kind of got earlier. Not picking up any of that, but a lot of cedar. 9.49 for this final third, which is definitely the highest it has been throughout. My strength here stays at a 6 out of 10. I know that last third I said that it was kind of peaking there towards that 6. It stayed here at that 6 for the final third here. I think if we get a bigger size of this cigar,
it's going to kick it up
probably
a little
going
bit.
to go to a 7. But a solid 6 here for that strength. Running you through the thirds, 8.94 for the first third. Very, very respectable for that opening third. And then an extremely very, very good score here in this middle, 9.38, and then a very, very good number here that finishes out at 89.49, which is very, very high.
That's funny that ours kind of went inverse of each other. When mine went down, yours went up.
But mine definitely became more enjoyable, throughout. 9.27 for the final score of this cigar.
Nice.
A very, very good score here for this cigar. These things MSRP for about 25 and change, so let's call it $26. So the price per point score is going to be rather high since it is $26. But wow, 2.80 actually is not that high for $26 cigar. So I'm pretty happy with that price per point score. Now, obviously, it's not going to be in the ones because we're in the $20 range. But being on that lower end of or a higher end of the 2s, lower end of the 3s, if you would,
it's a very good score.
Very good for $20. So I'm really enjoying that.
I think this cigar would pair phenomenally with a latte or a mocha, something with a little bit of a chocolate or a caramel to really bring out that maybe like a mild baking spice that might have been in there.
Really, you can't really. I don't think you can go wrong
with pairing this.
I mean, I got the cayenne pepper in here, so we can go with something like a rye. Rye bourbon, or even some rums that are a little bit more peppery, a little bit more spicy there, a little bit sweeter. You can go with an old fashioned, something that has the sweeter citrus notes and stuff, the orangey in it.
Make it really pop out there.
Yeah, really pop on those notes. But also in this final third, I got that coffee and cream. So again, you can go to a coffee. I feel like you can't go wrong here with pairing this thing.
Really well-balanced cigar. Very enjoyable throughout the entire smoke.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this thing. And I'm definitely going to enjoy it down to the very nub here as we go out of the video. But if you guys like the video, please hit that like button. comment down below any cigars that you would like us to review. We just reviewed on the last two Perspectives episode a community dropped cigar, the Drew Estate Under Crown 10. We both very much enjoyed that. So
absolute flavor bomb.
Yeah, please leave any cigars that you want us to review down below, because we were I think that was a very enjoyable smoke for us. So yeah, leave those down below. We would love to get to them. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notifications button if you haven't, just so you can stay up to date on all of our cigar releases. I've been kind of weird with my shorts drops recently, just on times. It seems like when I have time to make them, I can make them and throw them out there plentiful, but on other days I don't. So hit that notification button. That way you can stay up to date with all of that. We'll see you next time here on the Smoke Shack.